join and succeed in FIRST programs by sharing our experiences and knowledge. We would also want to share how much fun we had so that other kids and students can experience it too.
So our agenda for this session is first we're going to be talking about what a robot is, what should be on your robot design, some examples of our previous robots from our past years, tips and tricks for building a robot, what is the robot game, the robot game mat and table, the robot game examples, so we'll be showing a video from one of our past years, robot game strategies, the importance of robot game, our recommended season plan, and lessons we learned.
So before we get into the robot game and design, we like to start off about what is a robot. So if you guys think you know what a robot is or how it looks like, you can describe it on our Slido poll. So you just have to go to the Slido and you can join with the link in the chat. We'll check that out. So let's start with the pictures before we get into the definition. So robots you might think that a robot is the two pictures on the bottom, but they're actually all the pictures on the slide. In fact, the two pictures on the right are FLLC robots. And the definition of a robot is a machine that can do the work of a person automatically or under the control of a computer. When it says under the control of a computer, it's referring to a code or program, which is basically instructions that you give to the robot.
So what should be on your robot? Your robot should include the brick, which is the brain of the robot. It receives the program and makes sure that the robot executes it. You can also have sensors, which are the skin and eyes of the robot. They help the robot measure distance, color, touch, and angles to help the robot be more accurate. Some of the following sensors you can use is the gyro sensor, which measures how much you turn in degrees, the color sensor, which detects different colors, light intensity, and ambient light intensity. You can also have the ultrasonic sensor, which measures the distance away from an object. Also, you can use the touch sensor, which measures how hard your robot is touching something, such as pressing, bumping, or doing nothing. For rookie teams, we recommend that you use at least one sensor and start with learning the color sensor. For motors, you should also have motors, which are the arms and legs of the robot. They help the robot move. So you should have two large motors for the wheels, because that's how you move and turn. You can also have one medium motor or more, and you can use a medium motor for attachments, and attachments are extra pieces on your robot to help with missions, which are tasks.
So now we'll get into robot design. So you should build your robot to meet your team's needs and strategies. You create your robot using the Lego parts provided in the Mindstorms kit. So some common robot designs include the EDUCATOR bot, which you can see in the picture, which is a basic design, or the box robot, which is a compact and efficient design. Many teams choose to make their own robot, which can be based off one of these robots or can be custom. So custom designs can be inspired by other teams. The normal orientation of the robot is altered, as you can see in the picture on the bottom right, as the robot brick is vertical instead of being horizontal. The two pictures on the bottom are examples of custom robots.
So now we're going to be talking about the EDUCATOR robot. The cons are that it has no protection to sensors and wheels, and it's harder to mount attachments. It's also not efficient as it has a single medium motor and requires more runs. It also needs to be under good control. But the pros are that it's quick to build, instructions are provided by Lego, it's lightweight, which makes it have quick movement around the board, and it's easy to customize. As you can see on the right, there are some examples of the EDUCATOR robot. You can find tutorials for building the basic structure online and on YouTube. This design is very simple, so we recommend this for your first year, and you can use this as your basic design and then improve it to your team's uniqueness if you have enough pieces. Then you should make a box robot in your second or third year.
So now we'll talk about box robots. So the two pictures on the right are examples of box robots, and from the shape, you can see where it gets the name. So some pros of the box robot will be that there's more flexibility in adding motors, sensors, and attachments. It protects the robot's wheels, sensors, and motors from loose pieces on the mat, and has a symmetric design and can easily be aligned to the wall. So when it says easily be aligned to the wall, so the mat where the missions will be that your robot has to complete has a raised border, and that's called the wall. Your robot can perform wall reset, which is where it backs up into the wall to reposition it. Some cons of the box robot includes that it takes more time to build and it's a little bit harder. It requires extra pieces to build, and it takes up more space on the mat. You can find tutorials for building a box robot online, but we highly recommend that you build your own unique robot.
So now we'll be talking about how to make the robot balanced. As you can see, there's a red bar on both sides to keep the robot balanced and help it be stable. There's also a gyro sensor, but it's making it asymmetrical, but we needed a gyro sensor and 2 gyro sensors were not needed. This is important to complete missions fast and easily, as sensors can help with your missions a lot. A symmetrical and balanced robot is important because it has equal weight distribution and less drift. And drift is when your robot goes slightly to the left or slightly to the right and just not in a straight line.
So these are some pictures of our previous robots. So the picture on the left and the 2 pictures in the middle are examples of box robots, but the picture on the right is an example of a custom robot. Note that all of these pictures are different, but all these robots are different and unique, but they are all able to do well in the competition.
So now we'll be getting into some tips and tricks for building the best robot. Keep your robot compact, as compactness makes it easier for your robot to move around the board. Also, make sure that your robot is as symmetrical as possible to be able to align your robot easily. Also, make sure that your robot's weight is balanced, as it may cause a jerk at the start of your run, which may mess up your run. You can also cause a jerk if you program your robot to go very fast suddenly. Make sure your wheels are always aligned, and make sure that your robot is not too light. Only add sensors and extra motors that you will need and use, and make sure that your robot is sturdy and that all the pieces are secured.
So now we'll be going into Slido to check if you guys have any questions. So someone asked, what are robots? So robots are machines that can do the work of a person automatically or under the control of a computer. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type it into the Slido.
How long do you get till qualifiers?
So qualifiers are the first level of the competition. So it depends on the state you live in, but if you're in Maryland, qualifiers are in
They're
Qualifiers
December
are
through February. So someone said, how do you know that your pieces are secure? Secure means when your pieces aren't like sticking out of places, they're not too loose, and make sure they're like tight, and to like keep your robot together and compact. As I said before, compactness makes it easier for your robot to move around the board.
So someone said, is it hard to work with an unbalanced robot? So it's better to have a balanced robot. And so it's harder to work with an unbalanced robot because then think about it this way. If the right side is more heavier than the left side, your robot wants to go towards the right side. It's kind of hard to go in a straight line that way. So we recommend having a balanced robot.
So someone else said, what's the weight that you would recommend for a Lego robot? There's no recommended weight, but all we're like recommending is that you keep it like symmetrical. It can't be too heavy, but also if it's too lightweight, it can fall over.
If you have any more questions, you can keep asking them. We'll go for another minute or so.
Is it like what will happen if your robot is really heavy?
I mean, if your robot's super heavy, like you have a lot of if you have like a lot of pieces on your robot, I don't think anything's gonna happen. I don't think anything will happen really, but we advise that you don't put sensors and extra motors that you won't use, because that would just be unnecessary space. And also, if you have a super heavy robot, it won't move maybe as fast, and it also can cause drift when you're moving.
Someone said they came in late. What did we talk about? So we talked about the like robot design and like how to have a good robot. And don't worry, we record this session, so you'll be able to watch it after.
How do people add to the design during COVID-19? So yeah, it's gonna be really hard when you build your robot this year in particular, since you can't be relatively close to your partners or teammates. But we advise you to maybe have one person build it, or maybe switch people who build it, not build it at the same time. And you should also check with what FLLC and FIRST have to say about the COVID-19 and how it'll affect the season. But if you want to start making your robot right now, you can start designing it, looking for ideas and stuff, and maybe you can have just one person build the robot. Any more questions? You can unmute yourself or type in some more questions. Okay, so we'll move back into the presentation now. So we have one more poll for you. We have one more poll for you to do at Slido of what you guys think the robot game is. And then we'll reveal the answer. So what do you think the robot game is? What are your thoughts about it? Yeah, you can answer it. Just any ideas you have on it. Just type any ideas that you have, like if you have a vague idea or just what you think it is. It doesn't have to be the right answer.
So someone said they for the robot game is for judges to see how the robot completes a mission and if it's efficient. Yeah, that's kind of correct because the robot is completing missions.
Someone else said it's an event that involves a robot completing a task. That is actually very close to what it is. We'll show you an example to make the definition a little more clear. Completing the most number of missions in 2.5 minutes helps rank teams. Wow,
All
this
these
definition,
answers are good.
yeah, these answers are pretty spot on. Set of tasks, yeah?
You guys are doing good.
You guys pretty much know it already. So we'll go back into the slideshow so we can reveal what the real answer is. So the robot game is where your team's robot completes preset missions. So missions are basically tasks that your robot has to complete in a certain time. So a lot of you guys are really close with your answers. So let's just look at this terminology before we move on. So a match is one set of 2.5 minutes where your robot completes missions. A run is every time your robot leaves the base area, completes a mission, and comes back. And scrimmages are practice matches. So one match in the robot game lasts for 2.5 seconds, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. There are 3 matches in the tournament, so you can think of each match or round as a different chance for your robot to complete missions. Each mission has a set number of points, and some missions have more points, while others have less points. Our recommendation is that you do the missions that interest you and are the most fun, since FLLC is for having fun. And finally, teams are ranked in the robot game based on the number of points. So the highest score of the 3 matches is what counts as your final score for the robot game part.
So now we'll talk about the robot game mat and table. These are 2 mats and tables, and the one on the left shows last year's season City Shapers mat, and the table on the right shows the upcoming season's mat replay. So the pink arrows point to the base, and the base is where your robot starts. You can't touch or control the robot outside of the base. When your robot is in the base of your mat, that's the only time you can touch it and get prepared for your next mission. You get a penalty or lose points if you touch the robot anywhere outside the base. And by the way, the definition of a run again is every time your robot leaves base and completes a mission, 1 mission or more, and comes back. The yellow arrows point to the home area, and the home area is the space where you put all of your attachments and pieces to complete the missions during the robot game. And as you can see on last year's map, the red arrows point to mission models. And for an example of one of the missions, the second red arrow is pointing to the big white ramp. And to complete that mission, the robot has to go up the ramp to earn points. Make sure to research and understand your missions, as there are missions which have multiple parts to it. So if you complete it partially, you get part of the points, but if you complete it fully, you get all the points.
So now we will be going over an example of the robot game. So this is a sample match, which is 2.5 minutes from the Helix Hackers last year and during FLL. Before we begin this video, just take notice of the timer behind them that's counting down from 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Robots start to move. Cobras, get the traffic jam. Pushed up and out of the way. The robot's moving out into the middle of the field, and then backs up across the line where they can pick it up and reset the next program. Those some nice points. I haven't seen one of those go yet. The imaginative engineers attempted to climb the bridge, didn't quite make it. They're setting up again. Helix Hackers with a big jig moving and pushing pieces. Looks like they already know what their next program is going to be, what their next jig is going to be. They've got it settled in. They know what they're doing in the order they want to do it in. Untitled program. The robot coming back after making their first round. The referee's making a bit of a correction to the box. Jig's going in. gentleman is programming the robot, another's getting their jig ready. They're using that jig to position the robot in an exact position to give themselves a better chance of hitting their marks. That's smart engineering right there. It's not just about the robot, it's about your process. Sweatshirts getting themselves set up for the next round. And across from them, Box by the Bay, pushing in, getting themselves into that black circle. That's points in the bank. Away from the table. They've run their programs with time to spare. Felix is pretty fired up. Their robot has stopped. We've got a robot on the top. That's Untitled program. I'm trying to decide if I see a flag up or not. I don't think they're up in the air. 6 seconds remaining. Oh! Receiving one last shot, getting up the hill. And it's doing business.
So that was a sample match of 2.5 minutes from the Helix Hackers team last year.
So now we'll talk about some robot game strategies. Try to make as few runs out of base as possible, and as I said before, runs are every time your robot leaves the base, completes one or more missions, and then returns. Switching attachments takes time, so doing fewer runs saves time. It also takes extra time for the robot to leave the base and return. You should also split the mat up into multiple zones. As you can see on the mats we provided, we split it up into Zone 1 and Zone 2. Zone 1 is the area closer to base, and Zone 2 is the area farther from base. Group missions together based on location, navigation, and attachments used. Keep in mind that missions that are further away are harder to complete as your robot may not stay on track. You may need to use sensors to help your robot stay on track. For example, as you can see, there are on the bottom picture, there are black lines on the mat that you can use the color sensor to follow them. Choose missions that interest you, and also prioritize missions which your robot can consistently complete. Before you start coding, research the missions and plan out which missions you want to complete. Consider points and distance away from base. As it's farther from base, it takes more time.
So now we will get into the importance of the robot game. So keep in mind that your judging sessions are more important than the game itself. So we recommend that you spend an equal amount of time in each section: core values, project, robot design, and the robot game. So a way to think about it would be that the robot game helps you get a ranking during the competition in that part. So it just ranks you in the number of points you get, like first place, second place, 15th place, so on, so forth. But it's really just a boost or a helping hand in getting into the next round. It's not a key feature to get in. For example, if you qualify for the next round, let's say states, it just helps define why your team got into states.
So for our recommended season plan, we recommend that you start designing your robot and building it with your team as soon as possible, and set up the table and mat as well, and build the mission models in August or early September. Understand what the missions are and identify the missions that you want to work on in September, and edit your robot design according to the missions you picked in October. Also, program your missions October through November and revise and improve your robot and missions in November. Do practice runs and scrimmages November through December, and make a presentation for the judges November through December. Generally, Maryland qualifiers are from December through February, and it depends on the state that you live in when your qualifiers are.
So now I'll get into some lessons that we learned in the robot game when we were in FLLC. So you should always make sure that your robot is ready and that you have your attachments, jigs, and other important pieces with you. You should also make sure that your sensors and motors are always working and are calibrated. You should always have a backup strategy when it comes to the missions. So you have an order to run your missions, like for example, you have the first mission, second mission, and then the third mission. But In case one of the missions isn't working consistently, you should have a backup plan and you should practice that backup plan. For example, in our competition, our first mission wasn't working, so for the third chance or the third match, we decided to switch the order and do the second mission, third mission, fourth mission, and fifth mission, and then come back to the first mission. You should stay positive, and as you have 3 chances, and only the best score counts. So don't lose hope if something unplanned happens. Just focus and do your best. You should split the mat into 2 zones, as we mentioned before, as it'll help save time and it's a good strategy to always use. You should create attachments that are easy to put on and take off, as this saves a significant amount of time and every second counts in the robot game. You should be sure of your starting positions. This is really, really important because this just defines on how your missions will run. So you can use a jig, which we recommend. So if you see this picture on the side, this long length of Lego pieces here is the jig. It's what your robot uses to align at the beginning so that it can get ready to start. In our first year, we decided to memorize our starting positions, but it was really, really hard. So we recommend that you make a jig or choose really easy to remember starting positions in the base. And of course, practice makes perfect. You should practice scrimmages multiple times before your competition. We recommend that you take your robot to other tables from other teams to test your robot out and missions out, as it'll offer new insight and give you more opportunities to practice. Sometimes even local libraries and science centers have options for practicing. You can find more information on where you can practice besides your table in your state's FLLC email group. So
you guys have any questions? We'll go back to you can type them in the Slido and we'll check them right now.
You can also unmute yourself at this time. So we have a question saying, can your robot break? So yes, you should be really, really careful with your robot when you're like holding it because you don't want to drop it, because these are just Lego pieces. It's mainly just Lego pieces, and the brick is and a lot of them, yeah, it's all Lego pieces, so they all can technically break or fall apart. So you should just remember how you built it so that in case this happens, you know how to build it back and bring it back to the same state it was.
So someone else said if you should have 3 different robots for all 3 missions. So you can only take 1 robot to the competition and use only that robot for all of your matches. And like at home, like if you want to practice, you can buy another robot if you want. But for the tournament, you can only use 1 for all of the matches.
Someone asked, do you recommend to do the missions with the most points first? So at the beginning of the season, like once you have your missions and you've researched all the missions, we advise you to start off with missions that you think that you can do, you have a plan for, and that you'll find fun doing. But I mean, if your goal, but yeah, so just order them in the order that you want to do the missions in that are consistent, like they work consistently, the ones that you think you can do, and the ones that are fun for you.
So someone else said, is this for Lego Mindstorms? Yeah, we're talking about the EV3 brick, and you program it through the Lego Mindstorms application on your computer.
And if you're using a different like software or language to code, the missions and the table and the mat all stays the same. It's really just how your robot looks that's different.
So someone else said, what are mission models? Mission models are like preset pieces that are gonna be on the mat. Like you're gonna have like to practice, you have to buy like the mat and like the mission models, and they're like Lego structures that you build, and they have like tasks you can do with them. So then you have to make the robot complete those tasks with the mission models, which are, as I said before, Lego structures.
Yeah, I can even go back to one of this slide. So you can see the zone 1, zone 2, but if you see these little structures, your team has to build those. They give you like little Lego bags as if you've ever made one of those Lego structures for fun. So yeah, you have to build these, and those are what the mission models are. So it's just where the missions are. Like the ramp, that was a mission model because one of the missions is going up the ramp.
So someone else said, what are the missions this year? We actually don't know yet, and you'll find out from the FLL website, and they'll come out with like what the missions are, and you'll receive the information.
They generally come out in August 1st, but I think this year it's coming out on August 4th. Just stay tuned to what FLLC has to say, and they'll update you. There's some questions in the chat, so we'll answer that and we'll come back to Slido. If the robot breaks in the middle, can you pick it up and does it count as a penalty? So yeah, if your robot breaks or some attachment falls out in the middle of the game, it does count as a penalty. It does count as a penalty if your hands really go anywhere outside of base. So yeah, you can't touch the robot outside. So you'd have to decide if you wanted to leave it there, if you have like there's only like 5 seconds left, or if you want to take it and fix it and take the penalty.
So in the Zoom chat, someone else said, what if you have 2 of the same robot just in case one is bad? So it's okay if you have 2 like at home, but the only thing that like you can have, like as I said before, you can only take 1 to the tournament, but like use at the tournament. So yeah, you can have 2 at home for like practice and stuff.
Yeah, it's a good idea to have 2 if you can. It's not a requirement or anything, but in case like one breaks or something goes wrong, it's always good to have another one. But like as Zombie said before, you can only have that one robot when you're actually competing. The Slido, we'll go back here.
So someone said, are we going somewhere to compete? Normally you're supposed to go like to a building to like do for like the actual FLL competition. But right now, regarding to the Corona situation, look out for like what the FLL website says.
So what happens when you have 0 points in FLL missions? It's not the end of the world if you do end up with 0 points. Nothing's gonna happen. I just say just focus on what you can do better for the next round and just try your best.
So someone else said, what are the penalties? Penalties are like when you touch your robot outside of base, or like, yeah, if your robot goes outside of the base and you touch it with your hands, like pick it up or even touch it, and you can lose points with that.
Yeah, so that's the main way that teams get penalties, but you can also get penalties. It changes every year, so we advise you to like read all the rules, but there's other reasons that you can also get penalties, so it changes every season. So like what happens when you get penalties? You get docked some points. Like every year it's different. For example, let's say you're at 100 points and you accidentally touch the robot outside of the base. It's like 100 minus 5, so you only end up with 95 points.
So someone else said, what if your battery dies? Your battery will die, and like of course you're gonna have a charger to charge it. Like they'll include it with the core set, as we said, like in our last session, you can buy the core set and it'll include the battery pack. And for according to the Zoom chat, it says, someone else said, how long does it take for the brick to charge? Teju, do you know?
It depends on it's like charging your phone almost. Like it depends on what percentage you're at. So when we advise, like what we used to do when we were in FLL is that we would use the robot throughout the session, and immediately when we're done using it, like when we're like saying bye and we're leaving, just charge it overnight. That should be good enough for your robot. Someone said, how long does the whole competition last? So For the competitions, you have to get there around, I say 8 or earlier if you'd like. And judging, it depends on like your qualifier. The schedule is different for everyone. Judging normally starts around 9, and the competition part, okay, so it ends around 5 or 6. So you can think of it as like a 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and that's basically how long the whole competition is.
Like a full day for the
Yeah.
competition, including robot game, judging sessions, awards, all that.
There's any more questions? So yeah, the brick, you can either use a rechargeable battery or you can use actual like you can put actual batteries. We advise the rechargeable one because all you need is a charger then and you don't need to replace the batteries.
Someone else said, how long does your battery last from 100% to 0%? I'd say that for our sessions, they were like usually 2 hours long for like if we dedicated it to robot game, and usually they'd last through the whole session and they'd maybe go down to 20% and then we just charged it overnight after.
Yeah. Is there any other bricks you can use to code? So you don't use the brick to code. The brick is what you use to like set, it's like the brain of the robot. So you send the information to the brick. But yes, this year there is a different brick you can use. You can use the Spike Prime. It's brand new, and there's pros and cons to using the EV3 or the Spike Prime. So yeah, you can use the Spike Prime as well. And for coding, the Spike Prime uses Scratch and Python to code.
So someone else said, when do we get the kit? You can actually get the kit like whenever, like it's the core set, and we'll include a link in the chat or in the email we're gonna send tomorrow, and it's the core set, and yeah, you can get it as soon as possible, as we recommend you to start building the robot as soon as possible.
Salvi mentioned that for kits, we recommend that you get the core set. Yeah, there's a link in the chat now, so that'll take you to where you can purchase the kit. We also recommend for the kit, we recommend that you use the Lego Education Kit, as it can come with a few more pieces.
So I think that question means, what do you use to code the brick? There's an application that you can download onto your computer. It's called Lego Mindstorms EV3, and you use that to code your brick.
We'll have a session on programming the robot using Lego Mindstorm, so stay tuned for that. But there are other options, like I'm pretty sure Python and Scratch can also work, but it changes. So yeah.
Okay, so now we'll
There's
go
some
back
questions
to
in the
the
chat
Zoom
real
chat.
quick. Yeah.
Okay, so someone said, how long is the robot game and do you get breaks? Like the robot game, they're each 2.5 minutes long, and of course, yeah, you get breaks, not just gonna overwork you. So normally your robot game is like after 12 or 1, and then you get a designated schedule for when each of your robot games are gonna be, and you have 3 in total, so 3 matches, and your judging sessions are gonna be over by 12 o'clock, and then after you'll start robot game.
Someone asked, is EV3 the best choice for a brick? It depends. For returning teams who are comfortable with EV3, we recommend that you can stick with it, but if you're new and you want to try the Spike Prime, it's up to your team and your team's decisions. We'll finish up the Zoom chat and then we'll do a few more questions and then we can come back to questions maybe at the end.
So now the Slido chat. How many questions are there after you finish the first how many competitions are there after you finish the first competition? What is the name of the second competition, if there is one? So I think you're talking about, like, first there's qualifiers, which will be a whole day to itself, and if you get the champions like awards, then you'll go to the next competition, which is states. And then after that, you'll get into worlds, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so you have to get into the next rounds, but yeah, you have to do well in the first competition, and if you're chosen, you can go to the second one, and the second one states, like Zombie said. Someone in the Zoom chat asked, when does the meeting end? Around 5 o'clock Eastern time.
So someone else said, what types of devices can you use to code the bricks? So we use the computer laptop like to code the bricks, since it has to be like an actual application. Like you can't use your phone, but like if you look at the bottom or like top, depending on what type of computer you have, it needs to be like one of the apps you use. So you can only use, I guess, the computer or laptop.
You can also use some types of tablets. I think that the app is available, but it's most likely better if you can use a laptop or a computer. I think we answered how many competitions there are. It depends on what your team gets into.
So someone else said, do we use this Lego Mindstorms Education EV3 course set? Like, do you mean like, do we use like this?
I think it's the
Do
specific.
we use Lego Mindstorms EV3 to program the EV3 core set?
We don't know the exact like brand. Like we know it's like Lego Mindstorms, but we don't know the exact like product title. But it sounds about right. But you can double check it with the link that we sent in the chat. For this one, the Chromebook can't use the Chromebook for coding. Yeah, did someone have a question? You can unmute yourself.
The link doesn't open anything.
Oh, the Lego Mindstorms one? Oh, I think we sent a new link.
Yeah,
Hopefully
like right now.
Okay, do you choose teams? So your team could be, yeah, you can either join an existing team or you can start your own team. You just have to register it on the FIRST or FLLC website. Your team can be your friends, your team can be your classmates. It's really whoever you want and who's interested.
So someone else said, can you use a Surface Pro 7-inch touchscreen? If you're talking about a computer, then yes, I don't really know what a Surface Pro 7 is, but you can use any type of computer or laptop that's available, like has all the necessities to download the Lego Mindstorms EV3 application.
Yeah, you can just check if it's available to the certain device that you're using. We'll take these last 3 questions and we'll get back with the slideshow. And you can just ask us any questions afterwards.
So someone else said, how do you win the competition? So actually, like before I say anything, the competition's not all about winning, like it's all to have fun and learn. But to win the competition, just remember, do good in your judging sessions, do good in robot game, but don't focus all on winning. Like it's fine, just have fun and learn.
How do we know who will be on what team? Oh, FIRST or FLLC doesn't assign you to a team. It's not like that at all. It's actually like, for my team that I used to be in, it was my best friends. They actually started the team and they just asked me to be on it. So yeah, you just get asked, or you can start your own team with your friends or classmates or anyone who might be interested.
So someone else said, can you only use Legos to build the robot? Yeah, you only use Legos, but also in the set they give you, there's like other types of things you can use, which aren't exactly like Lego bricks, but you can't use like those other brands of Legos to add on to your EV3 robot. You can only use the Legos that EV3, not FLLC, gives you.
Yeah. So now we will just go back to the slideshow, and if you have any questions at the end, feel free just to unmute yourself. So there's a quiz on the Slido that's just a poll. We're not going to be checking it or anything. It's just to test what you learned today. Just try your best on it.
So for a sneak peek for next week we'll learn about, drum roll please, attachments. In this session, we'll be discussing what attachments are, the types of attachments, and tips for building attachments, and how to use and make jigs.
So thank you for joining us to learn about robot game and robot design. We hope you learned something new today. You can join us for our other Zoom classes by we hope that you can join us for our other Zoom classes, so you can sign up on our website or on the same Google form that you used before. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you have any questions at all, you can email us at helixhackersftc@gmail.com. Tomorrow, we'll send an email with the recorded session, the slideshow, and some more resources, so stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Can you send the form again in the chat?
Oh, the feedback form?
The
Oh,
sign form or the feedback form?
That's the feedback form.
The sign up.
The
Yeah.
sign one.
We can send the sign up one. Just
Yeah.
give us a second.
So we just put in the chat.
Do we have to
sign
give
up
our
form.
real name for the quiz? Or do we have to give our